Hi, Marcy. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes, our pleasure. Looking forward to our conversation. We've touched upon it a little bit months and months and months ago with another guest of mine, but it's definitely not something that we chat about often. So I'm looking forward to getting your wisdom and expertise on it. But what I would love to do to start is, can you share with our listeners a little bit about what you're currently doing with your IHP certification? We can always back it up and talk about how you got there in just a sec.
Okay. Well, I finished my level 2 IHP certification a little over a year ago and started a health coaching business last summer. And I am currently also doing a couple other certifications. I'm in the high performance health course, which is amazing. And I am also taking a functional mental health practitioner certification, just to help me dive a little deeper into the organic acids test and mold toxicity and some things that I've really seen come across my own practice with clients. And so in my practice, I am really focusing on weight loss and optimal aging. And I feel like there is just such a need for sifting through the clutter of what is out there on social media with what to do in regards to weight loss and what to do for anti-aging and increasing health span. And I find that so many people are asking questions. Even if you look at people's posts, there are just so many questions of confused people. And I really do want to share with people what they need to do that makes sense to achieve their goals.
Yes. Yeah. I think like any topic, right? There's so much information at our fingertips, which can, one, be amazing, but two, incredibly overwhelming and almost like paralyzing, where you're like, I don't even know what to do. So I'm not going to do anything at all. Right. And from an anti-aging standpoint, there can be so many things that are beneficial, or you can keep it simple, or you can start by eliminating stuff, right? There's so many ways to approach it, which we're going to talk about. And I love what you have to say about it. So we'll talk about that in just a second. What did you, what were you doing before getting into this? Was it something that you kind of, always were planning on doing? Did it come out of nowhere? Give us a little backstory.
No, I've always been a healthy person, but I've certainly up-leveled my game by doing this. But really what brought me into the integrative health space was struggling with health issues with 2 out of my 3 kids. My twins, who are now 17, really were struggling with many kind of odd and differing symptoms for many, many years. And I found that conventional medicine was really not helping. I was just being given prescriptions and trying to mask symptoms. And it was so frustrating. So I've spent many, many years researching and just refusing to give up of trying to help them. And then one day, about 2.5 years ago, I somehow stumbled across Dr. Cabral's website, and literally a light bulb went off. I just could not believe that there was another way to go with all of this. So I started working with the Equilife health coaches, including yourself, and doing lab testing and realizing that there are root causes to all these symptoms, and people are just masking their symptoms by taking medications. And, there are answers if people are willing to dig. So I went on that journey trying to work on my kids' health problems. And through that process, I realized that this is what I should be doing myself. And then when I discovered that the IHP program was out there, it was just such a natural fit for me. This is what I've spent literally probably a decade of my life doing anyway, is researching health issues and trying to find answers. And, I'm really persistent and a perfectionist when it comes to things like this. Like, I want the best protocol, the best supplements, the best way to go. So I will research a topic to death. So I listen to podcasts all the time. I love doing this. So this is really because of my kids that led me here, but also for myself. throughout my whole journey of helping my kids and going through my own life stressors, including divorce and taking care of kids by myself, my health was suffering. I definitely was battling with anxiety and extreme fatigue where I just get tired like really easily. And I would go to the doctor and be told, well, there's nothing wrong in your blood work. You're fine. And so I really struggled with that for a very long time. And so by learning what I know now, I've really been able to help myself so much too. And even with the weight loss, I grew up as an overweight kid. I struggled with my weight for many, many years, even though I got, pretty healthy into my 20s and 30s. But I've realized the strong impact that toxins have on everybody's health. And I feel like that is a key missing piece that people need to know about. So really that's what led me here. So I'm not working with kids, and I feel that, I do have a lot of knowledge about that, but I'm targeting my practice on helping the stressed out moms, the ones taking care of the kids that are maybe letting themselves go or not making themselves a priority and are suddenly finding that they're aging really fast. And there's a lot of people that aren't doing anything about it and they're panicking. So I hope that I can be a resource to them.
Yes. Yeah. And it's what a beautiful lesson for your kids, right? To just not give up and continue to look for answers and persist. And we're going to figure this out. It's not easy. It's hard. But it's going to be worth it. And it's such one beautiful model for them, as your mom, but also just a general life lesson. As you keep at something, you're going to figure it out. And
you're exactly right. And I told them that when I switched something around, that, it's a journey. We're still on it. Mm-hmm. I'm, still most recently have discovered some new things. I've discovered that all of us have mold toxicity. I found in my son that, he has neurological issues and was diagnosed with Tourette's when he was in 4th grade. I just found out that he has had Lyme exposure, he has mold, and he has strep in his system. And all of this went missing. There's not one doctor that ever discovered this. There's also structural things that people don't realize, like sleep apnea. And that's another thing that us women as we age need to be aware of that too, because our bodies, hormones change and our bodies change. But there's just so many things to look at and not accept things for as they are.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Even if it's, a doctor who we're, told to trust, they know everything, right? It gives them confidence to question people and to think for themselves and to persist. So it's, a beautiful lesson. And I think it's, when you have kids forever and you're taking care of them. So it's probably good that you're not taking care of somebody else's kids.
It's emotional dealing with moms and their kids.
Yes.
And I feel like I can so relate to the mom and the one that's, now needs to put themselves first because, we count too. And at some point they're not going to be around anymore. Mine are going to be going to college in a year. So there's no time to start like yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. I always say it's never too late to be what you could have been. I use this saying with my mom all the time, who she's 66 and you would think she's 89. She's like, honey, I don't have much time left. Like, oh no, what is wrong with you? But I'm like, you can be just as healthy now as you could have been 30 years ago. Now knock it off.
Well, a lot of it is just awareness. You don't know what you don't know.
Yes. Which leads us to our next topic, which is kind of how you bring a lot of this anti-aging health span type of information to your clients. And it sounds like before we signed on, we were talking a little bit, and it sounds like you kind of have 3, ways that you love to do that, which is testing and things that they need to take out and things that they need to add in, right? So I would love for you to touch on what are like the main things that when someone comes to you and they're like, oh, I'm like stressed. I need to like, my skin looks terrible, right? Vanity is a great motivator for women. Usually that's when they like realize, oh, I need to do something. What are some of the things that you would suggest like clients or coaches that are listening work with their clients on as far as like, what do people need more of when it comes to anti-aging and health span?
Well, first, I think people need to be careful of what they see on social media with, and I do it too. I'll post certain supplements I'm taking or, products I'm using, but people really need to start with the foundations. And I know we talk about that a lot, but, if somebody's drinking alcohol and they're not drinking enough water, they're not getting daily movement, they're not sleeping well. I mean, really, people need to be educated about the foundational things that need to be done first, because a lot of times when those get put into place, the other things can work themselves out. So I strongly feel like people need to do that first and then see what they're left with. And then we can go and do some lab testing. But, if somebody comes to me and they really do have gut issues, let's say, and digestive problems, and they feel like they're bloated, then I absolutely would do an organic acids test and look at their gut. So it kind of depends on the person and their symptoms. I also strongly suggest that people remove toxic products from their lifestyle. I'm huge on products. So that is super important. So I do work with people and giving them a lot of suggestions and lists of step-by-step of things that they can work on doing, and to not overwhelm them. I try to tell them, pick one thing each week that you're going to do, whether that be, okay, like get rid of your cooking with your tin foil, buy some unbleached parchment paper, or even with reverse osmosis, people don't realize that they're missing the minerals that get stripped out. I see that a lot. So these little tweaks to somebody's daily life that are really easy to make, I feel like need to be addressed first. And then we can go into some of the more advanced supplements, like to boost the mitochondria. So I do believe in the lab testing, and it depends on what stage somebody's at. But for health span and aging optimally, as we're learning in the HPH protocol program, once somebody is at a healthy weight, and they feel like maybe they don't need to be in body transformation mode anymore, at some point we need to look at longevity. So that is something that I really want to get across to the people that I'm working with. And that was even a little bit of a change for me. But, I'm 53. And at some point I was like, okay, I'm good where I'm at. Like, I don't need to be stick thin, and as long as, keeping muscle and using weight training and the proper exercises to stay healthy is important. But I needed to kind of change up my eating with my, not eating quite as much protein, because as we're learning, that is not best for longevity and increasing health span. So it's very interesting for me to put this all together, because it's hormones and stress and toxin removal and exercise. So I really am working on putting together a more comprehensive anti-aging, optimal aging, and increasing lifespan protocol program for people. So it takes them step by step on what they can do.
Yes. Yeah. And you touch upon so many great points. I think, one being that people kind of, they can see an easy fix of like, if I just take this supplement, it will do this. Or if I just, ooh, look, she looks good, I'll like take her, whatever. But if they're missing sleep, if they're missing movement, if they're not hydrating, right? Like it's just all Band-Aids. It's just natural Band-Aids, but it's still all Band-Aiding certain lifestyle things that are usually the main culprit of more rapid aging, right? I mean, sleep is, everybody knows, my biggest, soapbox, because it dictates everything. I mean, hormones, your energy, what your body craves, whether it be it craves sugar or it just craves, regular food. There's so much that comes into play that stems from sleep. that if that's not optimized, forget it. You can take all the, cell boost you want or what,
right.
the body's not repairing and detoxing at night, right? There's so much that it's missing foundationally. So I love that you kind of make that your, main point. And two, it gives the clients a lot of accountability, because if you're just, giving them the next like great supplement, well, they're not being accountable for their lifestyle, and they're just like continuing to kind of like reach for a Band-Aid, even though it's a natural Band-Aid.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I think people, even just the toxins and doing the detox, having that become part of a regular routine has been very, very key for me in managing my weight. I've been doing them every quarter for the last 2 years. I mean, it's made a huge impact. So even that to me is a foundational thing. If you can do that and kind of reset your system and then work on all the things we just mentioned, I mean, that should really come first. But there are so many people that aren't doing, any of that. And they think that it's just their eating and exercise that's going to get them where they want to be. But, like you said, if you're under stress and you're not sleeping and your cortisol is high, I mean, you're never going to be reaching your goals.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing that you said that I loved is that, at a certain point, the shift from, paying attention to longevity versus just aesthetically, right? There's sometimes this gray area where it's like, okay, so yes, I could, have all of these things aesthetically, but maybe that means that I'm eating in a way that's not going to serve me, in a longevity standpoint, and being able to kind of help a client sift through that nuanced data and understand it in a way that it's not just like, here, this is what you should do, right? But the HPH education is giving you like the whys, because he does a good job of explaining why tons of protein is not ideal long-term, right? In certain way, or certain kinds of protein, especially. So,
even though we might not be eating as much protein for the longevity diet, the whole idea around reducing inflammation, I mean, that alone may help somebody reach their more ideal body weight. Mm-hmm. So just because somebody's switching up their protein intake doesn't necessarily mean they're going to, be at a higher weight. So I think that working on the inflammation that comes from all different sources, I think that's really important. And I also think that the bio-individuality is just so key, that the same thing is not going to work for everybody.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Which the individuality comes into play with the testing, right? Which you mentioned. I would love to know kind of what you mentioned the organic acids test with gut testing, but what are kind of your favorite things for looking at from a individual? Oh my God, I can't say that.
I know it's such a hard word.
Individuality.
I don't know how I said it the first time. I definitely like the organic acids test a lot. And I do like the HTMA test to look at the mineral and electrolyte imbalances and the heavy metals, and I actually prefer to do those things first before hormone testing. And I really do try not to spend a client's money on things that maybe they don't need to do right away, because many times if we balance those things out, the hormones will fall into place.
Yeah.
And
even though the hormones can be the biggest symptom at first, like everyone's just like, fix my hormones, but it's so hard to do that knowing what right? Isn't it hard to just go, oh, sure, we'll run the hormone test knowing, well, all these other things could be affecting that.
Yeah. Like sometimes I'll tell people, like, just go get blood work done on your hormones if insurance will cover it, but then if it won't, that's another story. But just to like see, what's going on. But I think it's hard when you get post-menopause, like myself, you're kind of in a different phase. So that's like that those people like myself need different recommendations versus somebody who's still in menopause. So I do try to help people sort that out. So those are the two that I really do love to start with. Sometimes I'll do the stool test depending on what is going on. And I have found that to be really helpful. And another thing is the genetic testing that we're learning in HPH. And, I'm familiar with genetic testing just on myself and my kids. And that can be also super helpful if somebody has information that really just tells them what's their own body susceptibility is and where their weaknesses are. I think is really, really helpful in creating a plan.
Yes. Yeah. Because knowing where the weaknesses are, you're able to fill those gaps, and then, and knowing what strengths are too, right? Playing off of those, making sure that you're, playing on to the strengths and not, really making those weaknesses worse can be such a huge advantage to how they feel, but obviously how they age as well, long term.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then you mentioned products and kind of toxicities, and right, because like from the whole IHP model, we believe that somebody's deficiencies and their toxicities, yes. Right? What does somebody have too much of that's bad, or what do they not have enough of that's good? Right? We've talked about the good. What do you see people doing with products, whether it's beauty products or household products, that you're trying to kind of get them to shift from like a toxicity, more like exposure standpoint?
Yeah, I do actually try to create a lot of awareness about this on my social media. The toxins are everywhere. And I, once I learned about the rain barrel effect and read that, I couldn't put it down. And it just makes so much sense. I mean, the toxins are everywhere. And I like to try to explain to people that, you need to be drinking clean water and having an air purifier, testing your air quality. I'm a huge lover of products. And I try to tell people that, next time you run out of your shampoo or your laundry detergent, like, you don't have to go throw everything out right this second, but let's swap things out for something that is non-toxic. And I do a ton of research on products and brands. I've tried so many things. I really do like to recommend things that I have personally used. I've always been a hoarder of products. And, when I cleaned out my cabinet, it was kind of a joke. I weighed it. It was like 14 pounds of makeup. Of course, my girls wanted it. And there's so many bad things in these products that people don't know. Even fragrance is such a big one. Mm-hmm. And I find I have friends that will send me, screenshots of a product and be like, well, isn't this fine? And just because it says free and clear, I'm like, their packaging makes you think it's healthy, but you really got to read labels. So I try to tell people to read labels. And even with the foods, there are so many bad things hiding in food. So I'm a huge label reader. I'm very into organic food and trying to share how important that is to prevent pesticides, eating pesticides. And it's just, we can't avoid everything, but there are things that we can do to reduce our toxic burden. Is everything that we take in that is toxic and increases inflammation. It's just, it just overwhelms our systems, and it's really hard to keep up with that. So I feel like these are things that we can easily do if we make the effort. So I have many products that I recommend to people and resources. And that's actually really fun for me. I like to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if people, like you said, they're going to run out of it and they're going to buy it again, right? If people are buying these products anyway, right? If they're yes. using laundry detergent, if they're using makeup, then they might as well be using something that's not contributing to their toxic load and, that might be better for them. And I love that you say when you run out of it, okay, you don't have to throw away all your stuff now, but
I did,
ready to buy a new one. Yeah. Well, some people might be ready to, major switch.
I'm more of I hear something and I just do it. So yes. I'm there's no waiting. And another thing that I love with the products is I am very much researching not only the non-toxic products, but the non-toxic best anti-aging products. So I am using a couple brands right now that have the senolytics in it that really, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but that's a big, one of the hallmarks of aging. And I'm finding that very fascinating. So I believe that when it comes to buying products that we all use anyway, to make the best decisions, so our money goes towards having a positive outcome. I just think that's really important. So I do try to weed it out for people, and I'm always open to helping people with suggestions.
Yes. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, specifically for like skincare and makeup, a lot of women are just like kind of used to thinking that like it doesn't work, nothing's going to work as good as this, or it's not going to stay or perform, and I mean, that can't be further from the truth. The green.
No.
Yeah.
There's so many brands out there. Now. It's actually amazing. Once I started going down that rabbit hole, it's amazing how many brands are out there.
Oh yeah.
And people just don't hear them mainstream. But if you really start digging, there's so many, and some really great ones. I mean, even just the hair care products, and
yes,
it's fun. So I like to try things and tell people about them. Yeah. And hopefully they're working.
I think they're working.
Okay.
And I always say too, like having like, your trusted source of, whether it's somebody on social media, whether it's a website, right? It's good to have somebody that you can go to kind of be like, okay, I know they know what all the junk is, that for your clients, it's so good to have that as a resource, because some people, do all that gut-based stuff, but maybe they don't wear makeup, or maybe they, don't care what their hair looks like, and that's like not their thing, right? So they don't have those recommendations, right. But it's nice to have, somebody who, if you are interested in it, has a coach with all that knowledge and, back there trying it all for them.
Yep. I try.
Yes, yeah. And then as far as the clients that you are working on with anti-aging, are you seeing women who aren't paying attention, I'm curious, to these foundational things, just changing small things and seeing big results as far as symptoms are concerned, when it comes to energy or stress or anxiety or mood-based stuff? Do you see the foundations kind of supporting them in this way that is leading them to great results?
I do. I think that there are so many, it's amazing to me how many people really haven't been doing anything to address their own health. People are, at least I feel like in my age group, and it's really when people start having kids, we're taking care of other people and not putting ourselves first. And then I'm finding that, at least among my peers, all of a sudden kids are going off to college and they're realizing that they really haven't been doing much for themselves and taking care of themselves. So, I do think that the biggest thing that has made an impact on people is actually doing the functional medicine detox. Mm-hmm. And I feel like introducing that has so many wins. I get so much amazing feedback on how people cannot believe the results they get from that in just every way, body and mind. And these are also some people that really haven't been eating very healthy or paying much attention. So I do feel like that's a big eye opener to help people see that there's another way out there to, even though it's not technically a weight loss protocol, that it really does help with weight loss. Because I've seen too many people that I know doing these diet plans that have packaged foods and they have soy in them, and then they come off of them and then they're gaining more weight and they develop allergies. And so I feel like introducing the detox, which to me is really a lifestyle. It's not a one-time thing. And even little things like taking magnesium at night. That's, and just explaining to people that most of us are deficient in that, especially if we're under stress, and everybody's under stress. So I feel like those are two really easy things to begin with. And even just, adding electrolytes into their day. So I usually find that starting there gets people excited and realizing that they can start to feel better. But it's definitely a process. And
yeah. The detox. I mean, my favorite thing about the detox is it truly shows someone almost how bad they've been feeling because of how good they can feel.
Yes.
Which most people, again, are busy, stressed, and like we can kind of get numb to a lot of the things that we might be feeling. But all of a sudden, like you wake up with no aches and pains, your mood's stable, you're not craving food, you're sleeping better, you're not snapping with your partner. Like, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I could feel like this and it's hard to even like tell somebody like, these are the things that could happen from the detox, but
yes,
they have to experience it for themselves, because everybody like experiences this like individual transformation in a way that can be so profound. And like you said, can just change their whole mindset.
It can be so different for everybody, but I do feel like that's just a staple in what I do. And I have been doing private detox groups for probably over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been successful and a good way to just introduce people to really the world of toxins and how impactful it can be to pay attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. If people are listening and they want to find out more and hear all about your products and what you're reviewing and suggesting, where are all the places that you show up? Places like social media or websites or Facebook groups, any of those things?
On social media, I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Marcy Integrative Health. And my website is Marcy Slater, SLATERIHP.com. So that was my maiden name, which I use for not to confuse anybody, but I use my maiden name for my business. So it's Marcy Slater, IHP.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did with us and our community. I appreciate you being here and on the Integrative Health Coach Success podcast. And we'll look forward to talking again soon.
Okay, great. Thank you, Julia. It was so fun.
Thanks, Marcy.
Thanks.